welcome to the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting. It's at the Carson City Community Center. It's January 13th at 4 o'clock. Linda, can I get I'm sorry, we just called it a roll call? Yes. I'm a little behind myself today, or in front of myself, I guess.
Mike Jones.
Here.
Mike Santos.
Here.
Stacy Giomi.
Here.
Mike Riggs and Trish Trinowith are absent. We have a quorum.
Can I ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. This time I'll ask for any public comment. Is invited at this time to comment on or discuss any topic that's relevant to or within the authority of this public body. Seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of minutes. I've looked over the minutes. I don't see any changes that need to be made. If anyone else has any comments on that? Can I get a...
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
And I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Number 6, adoption of agenda. I don't think we're going to move anything around, but I think there needs to be a number added to item 10, the accounts payable amount. David?
Thank you, Chair Jones. For the record, Dave Peterson. On item number 10, the total amount should read $95,552.57. Again, that's for item 10 for the accounts payable checks total.
All right, thank you. You got the number late and good.
Correct.
All right, for possible action, item 7, discussion and possible action regarding approval of a payment to $20,000 to Arthur Z Enterprises Incorporated for the 2020 All World Sports Cooperative Marketing Towards Awards campaign. Ed, I think, come on up.
Yeah, so Chair Jones, I'll just do a quick introduction. So I'm very happy today to say that we have Ed Feldman, who's the National Director with All World Sports, to walk us through plans moving forward for 2020's events. He's also going to talk about 2019, what happened this past calendar year, the use of those funds, as well as just a holistic view of what the tournaments and teams have looked like over the past few years as well. So with that, come on up, Ed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, directors and fellow board members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and talk about our history with Carson City, both way back history and very recent history, and then talk about some of our plans moving forward. So to give you a little bit of background for some of you who are unfamiliar with All World Sports, we are an organization that focuses on the 3 diamond sports: adult slow pitch, youth baseball, and youth girls fast pitch. And we've been, Carson City's probably been our longest tenured relationship with any city we work with on the West Coast. I believe we've been running tournaments here for 19 or 20 years now. And we, again, very much appreciate the opportunity to be with your city. I'll walk you through a little PowerPoint, and then I have a document that goes into a little bit more detail in what you're going to see in the PowerPoint today. And then feel free to stop me at any point with questions, please. Okay. Hard to read that. So, use of funds. How we're going to approach 2020 is through kind of a 3-headed monster on getting teams to stay loyal to Carson City and attracting more teams to participate in Carson City events. Number 1 is lowering our entry fees. Across the board, every event that we're going to run in the city of Carson City, thank you, I appreciate it. Every event that we're going to run in the city of Carson City is going to have at least a $50 per team discount, if not more. And I'll talk about a much more robust loyalty program in a moment, but that's just right off the top. Secondly, Carson City is going to be a city where we're going to provide better awards, probably have as much as double the expense on awards in Carson City than we will in any of our other venues. We average about $125 to $150 a team in awards that we give out. We're gonna focus on it being $200 plus per team in awards that we give out for 2020. We actually started doing that in 2019 by bringing in rings as an awards for 4 of our events up here, but we don't want to just focus on the 4 events. We want to focus on all the events across the board, so we're going to enhance our entire awards package. Lodging for our staff has grown as our events are growing. With the inclusion of running girls fast pitch this year, and we're going to be running 4 girls fast pitch events in Carson City this year. Lodging has been a challenge at times. When we have strong pickup, we get some comp rooms, but when we have strong pickup, our staff needs rise as well, with umpires, with directors needed to support the fields. So we have a pretty significant out-of-pocket expense for staff rooms that are not covered through the comps that we have. We do not receive commissions because of the generous grants that we've received from Carson City. We greatly appreciate that, and that's going to continue to help support paying for our lodging of our staff. Enhanced marketing. So we've been marketing just the tournaments themselves, and some of the specialty tournaments have had guerrilla marketing through email campaigns, text campaigns, a couple of ads that we have in Sports Stars magazine in California, which brings teams out to Northern Nevada. This year, with a program that we're going to be initiating, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, marketing is going to have to be a much, much stronger focus for Carson City events. Social media, Facebook, actual targeted paid advertising that we're going to do on Facebook as well as Instagram to make sure that new teams are aware of the new initiative that I'm going to discuss shortly. Again, this talks about our longstanding relationship with the city of Carson City. Our loyalty is unencumbered here. We have added some events in Reno and Sparks as the demand has grown for Northern Nevada events, but we stayed away from Lake Tahoe to protect the city of Carson City. And I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Annually, we believe that we bring a pretty significant economic impact to the city of Carson City. The heads and beds are just one thing. We all know here that gaming, the food and beverage, gas and stores, the parks concessions, I know, do very well with our events. I think we have brought a pretty significant economic impact to your city. So in 2020, we're going to be expending additional funds of our own, and it's going to be much greater than the $20,000 that we've been receiving from Carson City. We're a very, very willing partner to do that, and I'm going to discuss what that additional funding is going to be. Oh, sorry. Okay. This is backwards. I apologize. Okay. Continuing to identify ways to bring teams to Carson City and avoid stagnation. So teams have been coming here for 18 years, but they age out. It's all about bringing a new generation of teams, families, youth to experience the city of Carson City for themselves. The challenge grows year after year because more turf complexes are being developed throughout our footprint, which is Northern California, Northern Nevada, and even into Southern Oregon. And teams generally opt for the turf complexes first before they look at doing things on the dirt fields. We have that challenge in California as well. We need to incentivize the teams to come here and reward the repeat visits. So now, I'd like to go to my next document. Thank you. So we've talked about the things that we've been doing, purchasing rings for a handful of events in Carson City, lowering our entry fees, the extensive marketing that we've done. But in 2020, the main expenditure that we plan on introducing to bring Carson City events back to the levels that they once were is what's called the King of Nevada tournaments. Now, we're going to run a series of tournaments from early August through the end of October. They're going to be in Northern Nevada. Now, Carson City is the only city that hosts all 6 events. I believe 3 of them are exclusive Carson City events. One crosses over and is Carson City and Golden Eagle, and 2 are Carson City and the Reno Sports Complex. But aside from that, all 6 events are going to be run here in Carson City. We have experienced a challenge over the last few years with the city of Lake Tahoe taking business away gradually, but we saw a more drastic reduction, or not, more drastic rise in their events in 2019. Now, Lake Tahoe has been approaching us for 5 or 6 years to run events there, but we're extremely loyal to Carson City. We haven't taken that, and we're not going to take that going forward. But that's opened the door for our competitors to come in and run some events in Lake Tahoe. Last year, I believe there were 5, maybe 6 youth baseball tournaments and 1 adult slow pitch tournament that was run in Lake Tahoe. And I'm not talking about just the small little 5 or 6 team tournaments. These are substantial tournaments that are bringing 30 or 40 teams to Lake Tahoe. Now, the city that's affected the most is Carson City, and I'm going to show that in my next document. But last year was probably the most significant slide in attendance in Carson City due to what's been happening in Lake Tahoe. We've allocated the same, for our events, the same number of teams to, as far as capacity is concerned, to come to Carson City. Now, what we're going to do with this King of Nevada tournament series is reward loyalty. Now, the teams in California, Oregon, Idaho that will travel to Carson City, they're only incented to come here if they see a who's coming list of teams confirmed to play more than a couple months in advance. If they don't see it, they're not going to plan for their expense to travel to Carson City. So by creating this loyalty program and rewarding teams to play consecutive tournaments and offering more drastic discounts as they go, teams will, first of all, in Northern Nevada, become more loyal to stay solely in these events, because at the end of the 6 tournament process, they will earn $750 off per team that participates. Now, we have 30, 40 teams that play in Carson City each and every year. So at each event each year. So when we're looking at that, the $20,000 doesn't even scratch what we're going to be paying out on that. It's also going to be in effect for teams coming from out of state to come. They don't need to come on a consecutive basis because it's a greater expense, but we will be granting discounts that will grow as they participate in more events during this series. It is a drastic measure that needs to take place because we have to fight what is a real competition in Carson City, in Lake Tahoe itself. And we believe putting this money towards this, plus the marketing, plus the additional awards that we're going to be putting in, will stem the tide and bring events in Carson City back to where they were even just 2 or 3 years ago. If you don't mind, let's go to the Excel spreadsheet. So this is a 3-year overview of how the attendance of teams have been in Carson City. Now, as you can see through this spreadsheet, every tournament here, you can see what's Carson City and then what has a crossover with another park. And Carson City during this period is our true focus. We do run events at Golden Eagle from February through early May that are exclusive to that park. But aside from that, you see that Carson City really is our focus. Now, in 2017, if you don't mind, these are the number of teams that participated at the Carson City fields themselves each weekend. And as you go to 2018, there might be a spike on 1 or 2 events, but for the most part, a slight decline. Not too much in 2018, but just 1 or 2 events. But 2019, if you look comparative to each event, virtually all the events saw a 10 to 20% decline. And that is a direct correlation to what's going on in Lake Tahoe and why we need to incent teams to play here. And we believe we have the solution for that. So that's it for my little presentation. I would like to open it up for any questions.
Well, thanks. I've got a couple questions, Ed, because you can imagine 20,000 is a large portion of our marketing budget each year, and our overall marketing budget. And so you're saying the decline in teams is all coming from Tahoe?
It's 100% correlated to what's happening in Lake Tahoe.
And, but as nationally, is softball fast pitch, is it growing or is it?
So adult slow pitch, and we only run one major event and one small event for adult slow pitch here a year. Slow pitch overall is declining for adults, but the specialty events like the Midnight Madness that we run here over Memorial Day,
Right.
if it's, if the marketing is done right and we incent the teams to come by lowering the fees, it's going to get back to where it was. To kind of give you an idea on specialty slow pitch tournaments, we've been running Las Vegas World Series the first weekend of December every year for the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. 2017, we had 395 teams. 2018, we had 450 teams. This year, we had 500 teams. And a big reason for this is we lowered the fees, better awards. We have to be able to do that here as well. But that's only one of the events, is for the adult slow pitch. Baseball is the preponderance of the remaining dates that we have here. And the baseball market, what we're seeing in baseball is teams are doing a little less traveling. Now, the attendance in our events, our overall market share has actually risen year over year, but teams are trending to stay a little bit more local. And if you don't incent them to travel to destinations that we direct them to on a more consistent basis, then we're fighting the battle of other markets like Tahoe that have been introduced to the youth baseball market. Now, for girls fast pitch, this is the first year that we are taking on a number of dates. We've been running, there's a congregation of leagues throughout northern Nevada that run all-world tournaments from, I think, the last weekend of May through the last weekend of July. And I think one of those events is in Carson City. We host our girls fast pitch, ourselves personally, World Series the first weekend of August. This is the first year that we are taking on 3 more dates for girls fast pitch once the World Series concludes, because the girls that play they're either going to play in Reno if they're going to play in Northern Nevada or stay in California. We want to introduce a more robust option here in Carson City. And because we have the following of the leagues throughout all Northern Nevada, that's going to supply us a significant who's coming list, first of all, to then market adequately to California and Oregon teams to play. So that's another reason we believe we'll see a spike in 2020.
You mentioned that you do a lot of ads and emails and text, and you mentioned one magazine, I think it was
Sports
called
Stars.
Sports Stars magazine. Do you have any examples of where you?
I can
other
get
you-
those emailed this week.
So on your email, is that a database that you guys have, or do you go out and purchase databases?
We do both. Now, the database that we purchase, we really only do mass emails once every quarter, maybe a little bit more often than that. The database that we specifically email to is about 8,000 teams in the youth baseball market, and that gets emailed bi-weekly, maybe monthly during the slow time of the year, but bi-weekly. And we do more concentrated text campaigns on the organizations that they are loyal to All World. They play with All World on a consistent basis, and we will do text campaigns twice a month as well. Now, a good number of those texts and emails are focused strictly on Carson City.
Is our logo on every email?
Yes,
Carson
on every
City?
email, not text. Oh, Carson City, honestly, no, there is not a logo for Carson City. But they are linked to our website, which directs them to the Carson City events. I can make sure that a logo is added to future correspondences. That's an oversight on our part, I apologize.
You mentioned that getting rooms for your staffs for the bigger tournaments is an issue because you have more staff.
Yes,
Right.
and umpires.
But, yeah, and umpires. Help me understand, because I'm in the hospitality business, my other job, and I was under the impression the more room nights, the bigger the tournament, the more comp rooms you get.
Yes, but it doesn't come close to what we need for the umpires and the staff that we bring. On average, we get, for the larger tournaments, we probably get 5 or 6 comp rooms for the weekend, on average. The smaller tournaments, we get 1 or 2. There's always an expense over and above that we have for rooms. We typically go just to other hotels that are not providing us our comps through the visitcarsoncity.com website. We try not to have a lot of nepotism on the hotels that we offer for our teams.
You mentioned these tournaments changed in this summer, that you're going to have focused on Carson. There's going to be 6 King of Nevada, and all 6 will be Carson. But some of those tournaments will also, part of them will be held in Reno, correct? And Sparks.
Correct.
Now, are they discounting the entry fees there too?
In Reno, we are. In Sparks, I can't. We don't run a gate fee, so I can't discount it there. The King of Nevada is going to be for all the events. I can't segregate. If teams see that, the 12, 13, and 14-year-olds are playing in Carson City, but these other ages are playing in Reno, and it's the same event, and I'm not providing the discounts there, I'm losing my teams. They're not going to play. So I have to offer that same discount everywhere. So that's why I say that the $20,000 that we're getting here doesn't scratch the surface on what we're going to be paying out to teams.
I just got a couple more, and then I'll let
Please.
my fellow board members, I won't take up all the time. I guess my question there is, if I like Reno and I'm getting the same discount,
They don't have a choice. We designate which ages are playing in which city months in advance of the event.
And what's being done nationally to help softball and marketing?
Adult slow pitch?
Yeah, and
We
I think
actually-
that's in decline, yeah.
We actually, so I'm the baseball guy. So I'm the baseball and the fast pitch. I don't handle any of the marketing personally for the adults. I could tell you that quite a bit more national newspaper or magazine ads are being done than there. We don't do any national ads for All World Sports in the youth market. We have added some Texas directors, Kansas directors, and Southern California directors to baseball. So we're going to explore doing that going forward. This is our first year with those new directors. But the beauty of that, as we add those states, our World Series events are here. So if the teams want to play in the penultimate event, this is where they have to play.
A question I have about Tahoe and losing events to Tahoe. I'm just guessing here, but I would think those people are not as cost conscious. They want to be in Tahoe because they want the lake, they want everything that Tahoe has to offer. So is a discount going to drive that person away from that?
So the thing with Tahoe is, we've controlled the Northern Nevada market for youth baseball, and I'm talking about the teams that are located here for as long as we've been running events. Because Tahoe has started, some of the Northern Nevada teams have moved away from playing all of our events. So instead of playing 100%, we'll play 75%, 80%, because they want to play a little bit in Tahoe. If they want the discounts to pass on to their families, and these are significant discounts, there are organizations that have academies with 6, 7, 8 teams in their organization. And if they play in our events, you're talking an organization getting $5,000, $6,000 rebate. That's a pretty significant savings. We need those teams on our Who's Coming list, away from the Tahoe Who's Coming list, to then generate the interest or keep the interest going for the out-of-town teams to travel here. That's crucial.
I guess I lied when I said I had 3 questions. Now I'm on.
Go
number
ahead.
5. So the majority of the 20,000 will go towards discounting?
No, that's additional monies that we're spending. I wanted you to understand that we're making additional investment into this that we haven't made in previous years, because that's how important our relationship is to Carson
So
City.
the 20,000 that we put in, that all goes to marketing?
That's all gone to marketing, awards, the rings, the lodging. That's all gone to that. We also do, there are a handful of organizations that if they play 10 events with us in Northern Nevada, they get 1 free event. And because most of the events are here in Carson City, most of that money, is allocated to Carson City. But aside from that, this is a brand-new expenditure that's going to far exceed the
And
20,000.
then lastly, you mentioned that you could send emails and examples of text and everything. I would ask that you get
Absolutely.
that information to David, if you could.
Yeah, we have a history of we have a mail system that has every text and email we've sent out last 2 years, I believe, so I can get those over. And numbers that they went out to, so not just the examples of the emails.
Yeah, I have a couple questions for you on, have you had any feedback as to why there's a decline in participation with us specifically with Carson City and our events? And with your you say you want to enhance the marketing. With your plan in doing that, do you have a team in place? Do you guys have as a board, just get together and figure out ways to market
So
tournaments, or how do you do that?
I build all the marketing. I build the text, the logos and so on that go on all of our marketing. Jay, the owner of All World, he conducts all the marketing. He does most of it himself. It's pretty much a grassroots focus, but this is part of our day-to-day business to maintain and grow what we have is through the marketing that we do. So it is all us.
And do you tweak that with the feedback you get, or, how do you, I'm just curious as to why, other than you say Tahoe has kind of one of the big reasons why we're losing some teams here, but specifically to Carson City, why we might be declining in our participation with our tournaments.
It's honestly that, and the fact that teams don't travel quite as much in general. So if we're going to try to attract their travel dollar, we have to give them a tangible reason to do so. And Tahoe is the elephant in the room. It's the number of events that they have during the time that we run most of our Carson City events have grown incrementally year over year. And we have to give them, the teams, reasons. Instead of going to Tahoe twice a year, go there once a year. Add a Carson City event to your schedule. The thing about the youth that you don't see as much in the adult is the turnover of teams. You know, teams will play with us year over year in Carson City, but then they age out. New teams come in. How do we attract the new teams? Why do we give them a tangible reason to play in somewhere other than, you know, the Reno, Sparks, Carson events? Like I said, we designate what ages are playing where. So they don't have a choice. If they want to play in our event in a certain age, they're playing Carson City. If they want to play in this age and they want to stay in Carson City, but the age is designated Reno, unfortunately, they're going to have to play Reno or stay in Reno. That's just how it is. There aren't enough fields in Carson City to support our large-scale events, like the Labor Day weekend, July 11th weekend. Those 2 weekends in particular, Carson City doesn't have enough fields to support all the teams that play. So that's why it has to be split.
And then the last thing I'll say is just kind of a statement. You know, we're marketing Carson now as the hub, the center point, the place to stay. And, you know, you can go 30 minutes to Tahoe, you can go, 20, 30 minutes to Reno. This is the place to stay, and we have a lot to offer here, especially for families. And I would encourage you, when you're doing your marketing, to look at that, look at our new website, and maybe look at putting that in your marketing plan, that when the families come here, they have a lot more to do than just the softball, that there's things we can do in this community, with our museums, our outdoors, our culture, arts and cultures events, our V&T train that we have, our museums, all that stuff, that I would encourage you to use that in your marketing plan to maybe help bring these people here and to say, hey, come to Carson City, stay in Carson City, experience what we have to offer here, and then go explore everything else around us.
So if you wouldn't mind, at your leisure, please go to a designated website that we have for our World Series, which is our largest tournament. It's awsworlds.com. And then if you go to baseball, you will see information that we have there. I believe there's a details tab, which is the last tab on the website, and it talks about everything that Carson City has that we've been provided. If there's new things that we can introduce onto that, we would love to do so. Additionally, if let's just say 6 weeks, 2 months in advance of some of our tournaments, we want to just do a Visit Carson City focused email or text, just what to do, reasons to play here other than a cost savings, more than happy to do that.
I get the incentive stuff, the prizes and all the cool stuff that these guys want, because I played, back in the day with this guy, actually. But
Back in the day.
back in the day, yeah. But I really wanted people to visit our new website and to see what we have to offer. It's great, and I really think it would inspire people to come here and see what we have to offer.
Agreed. David's been touting the new website to me, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to stay for the entire meeting today, but tomorrow when I return, I'm going to look back on this meeting in video so I can learn about the new things that David's going to talk about with the website. Thank you.
To add on to what Mike says, that's one of the notes that I had, and I think just, having our staff work with you on making sure that what, you're pushing out is in line with our new marketing strategy. I think that's critical for us to take advantage of that when we have that opportunity. And furthermore, to make sure that we're hitting the markets that we want to hit too, based on the research that we've done. We've spent a significant amount of money on research, and I'm sure you're hitting markets that are your markets, but I think at the same time, it would be helpful if we ensure that those markets cross over to the ones that we want to hit, because we're missing the opportunity there.
Are you
Otherwise-
speaking of like a Southern Oregon or?
Yeah, partially Southern Oregon, certainly California, Sacramento. I mean, you can work with David I'm not the person to ask because my memory is much smaller than it used to be. But I think that, hitting that or Las Vegas or wherever it might be, that just so that if we're giving you marketing dollars, we want to make sure those marketing dollars are working for us as much as they're working for you. And I guess, I don't think we're taking anything away from what you're doing by asking you to hit some of the key points that we want to hit.
Not at all.
Because I don't think we're interested in doing that. In terms of if assuming you come back next year and assuming we approve this year, I'd like to see a little more detail. I'd like to see the list of tournaments that you're going to be promoting, at least in the sense that we have a list of what they are: adult softball, junior fastball, whatever the case may be, as opposed to just because I don't know what these dates correspond to. Maybe everybody
I will
else.
tell you right now, the only one on there, there's 2 dates. August 3rd, which is girls fast pitch, and May 25th, which is adult slow pitch. Everything else historically has been youth baseball.
Okay,
Just-
I think it would just be helpful
Sure.
to have that information.
Absolutely.
And finally, I think it would also be helpful, since we're spending public money, to have some kind of a detailed budget. It doesn't have to be, I don't think I'm not asking for down to the penny, but I'd like to see either by percentages or by, rounded dollar amounts, what you're spending the money on. I think that's important for us, to be able to make sure we're spending our public's money wisely. So, that would be very helpful to have.
And if you wouldn't mind, David, I would love to sit down with you, if this gets approved, to create, get you more involved in our marketing plan for 2020 and just, create the stepping stone marketing, what it looks like and what you'd like included. Absolutely.
That would be great, Ed. Yeah, thank you.
And last questions for staff, was two questions. Sorry, I'm pulling a mic. Have we measured, and this may be just my ignorance, the economic impact of the 20,000 that we're spending? Have we done that at some point in the past?
We conducted a survey last year to try and get data. We've also pulled information directly from all World Sports websites to gain an understanding of team counts, where they're coming from, and tried to connect that to the surveys. And then we kind of compiled that and sent it over to Brian in Florida to help us measure that economic impact.
Okay.
So, the answer is yes, a third party is taking care of that for us.
Okay. And
Well, can I just add,
certainly,
we'll have results of that, let's just say, I don't want to say in a month, but I'm thinking within a couple months, because we've got about 60 hours left of just that
Perfect.
data entry from all of those 2,000 surveys. And then as James said, we're going to sort of collapse it together and look at the baseball, softball holistically.
Okay.
In terms of what that impact is. But yeah, it's kind of a shared, as James was saying, Ed has great information on his site. And then obviously we're surveying people that are at those tournaments as well, and just kind of pooling that information together and working on coming up with some estimates holistically for baseball and softball. So, yes.
and finally, a question for council. Since we're down 2 people and they're not abstaining, everything has to pass 3-0. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
As everybody keeps asking questions, that makes more questions for me.
Certainly.
So I want to talk about the camping, and I think some of the hoteliers would say that's negatively affected them. Is there a fee to camp out there?
No, there has not been a fee to camp out there. I will tell you, though, that Scott Chapman at the city has actually done a good job in providing less space for camping. So we want to make sure that there's really only one event that has the
Midnight
camping,
Madness.
which is the Midnight Madness. And he's created less space for that, gradually shrinking it so teams who are driving in have easier access to get into the fields from the hotel. So I won't say that he has done that for the sole purpose of having more heads and beds, but it's a result of doing that. And we can talk about continuing to shrink the camping. I have no problem doing that. There has to be a camping atmosphere. All of our Midnight Madness events have that. But if we make it a more select area, I'm sure, I can't speak for Jay, but I'm certain he'll be fine with that.
Parking fees out there during the,
I don't run the adult Midnight Madness. I don't know. I know when we ran the youth Midnight Madness, we didn't. When we ran the youth Midnight Madness, we didn't.
no, just finish, I agree with, see if we could have more detail, on August 31st, and where those teams are coming from, and then David and his marketing folks can, maybe target and help you out there a little.
What I can do, David, is the week of the event, I have my set list where I send my schedules to my cities for, just the event itself. I can get you a list of teams and where they're from, each and every event.
That would be great.
That,
Thank you. Yeah.
the week of the event, and that might help us for the next year. It really, it's too late for that week, right?
Right, but as far as having vision, I can do that. And then however else we decide to market the targets we do.
I think it'd be great to, the board's point, for you to understand the DMAs that we're collectively marketing to digitally and in print, and match up and take a look at that. Maybe we even hone in on some individual zip codes within those DMAs as well, just to understand where those teams are coming from would be great.
Sure.
So, and I like the idea when you talked about the social media, Instagram, Facebook. Obviously, we have a pretty great campaign running, with Lydia and Jess on that front as well. So I think targeting in and doing some things to complement that sooner, of course, I think, than later, right? So maybe
Maybe there
pick
could be
up a
some
new-
shared, there could be some shared marketing
Yeah.
that we do on that to.
Yep, that'd be great.
More questions?
You can make a motion if you.
Yes.
I move to approve the CTA's payment of $20,000 to Athruzy Enterprises, Inc. for the 2020 Cooperative Marketing Campaign, with a contingency that a detailed budget is submitted to staff prior to expenditure of the funds.
And I'll move to second that with the amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Right. Yeah.
And anybody has
Thank
any
you.
questions, please.
Detail, though. Detail.
Yes.
Oh, item
so-
8, marketing update
We'll get
from
Andy
KPS3.
and Lindsay, to get all plugged in here on the computers. So we've got 3 items on the agenda. One is just updating that we did launch the website on December 30th, the .com version, and then they're going to walk through the .biz designs. I'm sorry, so we have 2 agenda items, then Q&A. So I'll let them get plugged in here.
Andy Walden for the record. Thank you, David, for covering the agenda. We're already on slide 2. So it has been a very important month. Both teams have been working really hard to be able to get content in there, to be able to optimize imagery, to really get the website up and running and launched on December 30th. So it was great to see all this work come together. And so now with the brand, with the website, everything is now officially live. And so really excited to see this. So now we can direct the people that want to continue to support the tourism initiatives to be able to go to the website, as well as being able to now being able to promote it and being able to bring tourism and more tourism here as well. So as we're looking into the next stages of the website, we are going to be focusing on the industry partner section. And really the focus here is going to be our local tourism stakeholders. And so we're going to see hotels as well as restaurants having access to be able to update their own information, as well as this is going to be a resource for other tourism partners in the community to be able to help promote Carson City as a whole. So today is going to go over the updates that we're going to be making over the next few weeks and being able to share those designs. So with that, I'm going to share our Envision links, which is going to be a lot larger than what you see in your packet. And so this is going to be the industry partners section. And you can see that this has a little bit of a different design feel, and that is by intention, because we want to make sure that the industry partners know that they are in a different section of the site. Really, this is focused on mainly the business side of things, so really calling to that action. And then becoming a partner, this area, as we were mentioning, hotels and restaurants are going to be able to update their information on the site directly. So that'll be a mark of efficiency as well as access. And so, for example, stakeholders can go in, they can update this imagery so they can find the imagery that they want to be able to help promote their organization, as well as then being able to provide the descriptions that they want to be shown to potential visitors on the site. And so they will be requesting access to be able to do that on the website directly. And then this is going to be really the access points, and we'll go over this in a little bit more detail for the sports and event planners, as well as the areas of financials for Visit Carson City, as well as Carson City meetings. Then we'll go into being able to log into the partner portal and then the contact Visit Carson City. So really just call to action links here. And then here's the industry resources. So this section is going to be great for people requesting access, whether it might be brand elements or perhaps Travel Nevada has a great section on their site that really highlights the next steps in tourism that we can then also be able to highlight on our site to direct tourism partners to that. If there's any additional research that's being done specifically to Carson City, we could push our hoteliers, our lodging partners, our restaurants to those so they have quick access to those. And then, for example, like the previous presentation, for logo assets, for brand assets, for imagery and so forth, we can then push them to this page to be able to gain access to using the right information that we want them to use to promote Visit Carson City. And then, of course, we need to highlight our wonderful board members, so they'll be able to see who's part of the board for public information. And then meet the team. And we're going to go over some of these pages in detail, but that is the industry partners section. So as we move into more of the detailed sections, as we highlighted during our discovery, the sports and tournament planning is a really important target for us, as well as the event planners as well. And so we want to make sure that they have their own dedicated section to be able to promote the wonderful venues that Carson City offers. And obviously being able to contact James to really help promote the overall area when they need someone to talk to. And so making sure that James's information is front and center so they can get quick access of who to call when they're making a decision on where they should host their next tournament or where they're going to host the next event. And then underneath is really where the venues are. So this can be pretty much anything that we'd want. It can go from the tournament fields for some of the baseball or softball fields that we have, or it can be something like the Brewery Arts Center to someone who wants to host a concert by themselves or promote their own event. This will be really an area where they can go to the venue, get the details to make sure that that venue is going to fulfill their eventual event needs. And then the RFI and RFQ pieces at the very bottom. Then going into another detail page, meet the team. So this is where people can see the Visit Carson City staff and finding who they need to talk to and their contact information. And then some of the elements as a public organization that we do need to have, being able to highlight our past meetings and all the information that we need to be able to make public, as well as future meetings to ensure that people have access to this information to attend in person. And then once we go into the detail, showing all the attachments so they can be able to access this for public record. Contract and financials, very similar. So open RFPs that we need to promote and make publicly available. And then in addition to that, financial statements, economic surveys, lodging reports, so mainly all the organizational information that we need for public access. And then finally, the contact page, which is pretty much already live, but needs to be updated from the design perspective, which provides a form for people to submit their information. In addition to that, on the live page, this also currently has the phone number, our physical address, so they know how to get a hold of us. And so these updates from a design aesthetic perspective are going to be live over the next few weeks, and really we'll see the industry partner section come to life then.
If I, for the record, Dave Peterson, one additional section that you're going to see probably to the left of the sports and events planning, and this came out as a result of the NTA event, National Tour Association, that James and I were at as a group tour, or a travel trade section of our website, so that we have our one-sheeters there. James will talk a little bit about that during his presentation, but we can have itineraries built out, motor coach friendly locations, right? So kind of a one-stop shop. I think of it as like the group tour or the travel trade kit, so to speak, like a media kit for the media, right? To have something like that for the group tour and the travel trade folks. So that we will also be adding onto the website. So I just want to add that. If you covered that while I was out, I'm so sorry, Andy, but yeah, that'll be added to this .biz site.
And I think it is important because as our needs grow, I mean, the site is really flexible to be able to add to those needs. So even things like, as we have specific events, creating landing pages so people can be able to see, what things that we want to be able to promote. If there's any potential deals or anything of that nature, that they have one area to go to be able to find that information collectively in one page.
And you may have answered this in the sports and tourism site, and businesses can, manage their own information. And I'm sure that the businesses that have marketing folks that will understand how to do that. But I worry about the restaurants that maybe don't, and how do they get, and who helps them? And do we go out with, is that something we should do as a board? Or your folks go out and solicit, hey, this is a great thing that'll help your business, but we can help you get it off. So I don't know.
The short answer to that is Jess on the end. That's partly why we have that position, that multimedia content coordinator position, because Jess will be our liaison, right, with not only the hotel partners, but the restaurants, the bars, museum partners, our wonderful galleries, the little antique shops that we have. So we'll be doing communications to those folks, right, from an industry partner email standpoint, but then also calling and talking to those folks. And I do realize some people will get right in there and they'll be loading all their pictures and information and updating and changing their information maybe based on the time of the year. For others, it's going to be the Jess and Lydia show, unless they give me access to it to add somebody's picture. So then I can help them. But yeah, we'll kind of have to shoulder some of the burden with some of the smaller properties. But we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to manage it themselves, obviously, and we'll provide that necessary training for those folks.
To add to that, there's definitely plans to do training videos that they can see anytime through YouTube. So we don't have to be there physically for all those properties, but there will be, of course, initial outreach and training classes if possible, if the interest is there. So we'll reach out to them on multiple different platforms so that hopefully we can attack everyone's learning styles and abilities in that way. So.
I think to really make this robust, the outreach is going to be critical, so, and I know you guys get that. My comments on the other side of things, are we going to be perusing what they post for appropriateness and content? So before it goes live, so someone can't put, I hate Mike Santos on there. Nobody would ever do that, but in case somebody wanted to, we could stop them, right?
Yes, nothing, I'll let Lydia go through the technical aspects of that process. But yes, our team has the final say-so before any content is actually pushed live to that website. But if Lydia wants to.
I don't
Just
need,
to
I don't need the
clarify
detail,
that.
as long as I know it gets checked before, it's fine. Just wanted to hear that.
Yep. Yeah. So from the administrator side, you have complete access of who has the ability to update there. So, ultimately, if someone is not posting what should be appropriate from a business perspective, then their access gets cut off.
So,
And
so I think just so we're not, as we back that up, before we roll it out, I think we need to be very clear in terms of a policy on what we're going to allow them to do. So it doesn't look like we're being restrictive to them and their speech, but also making sure what they post is not offensive and appropriate. So I think that's critical that we do that before we roll out and do the outreach, so that it's clear to them what we'll allow them to put there and what we won't allow them to put there.
I agree with you.
No, that's, I think,
And
gonna be
and the other thing
important.
I would add too, and Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but only certain fields are editable by our industry partners as well. So I think talking through, hey, these are the fields that you can actually edit, change. I think we're only allowing images, no video, right, off the get-go. So we do have those filters in place, but I think flushing that out and making them aware of that and as a part of our communication is a great idea.
Andy, are we going to include, or can we include like conferences and trade shows, like one-time things under events, come in to have their input or have them put their stuff in under that?
Yeah, so that right now, as the part of the community and part of the regular.com, people can submit their own events. But in addition to that, that's really the partnership that we have here is being able to promote the larger events. And I could even see kind of what we were mentioning, like if it is a large enough event to where they want access to, like there's deals or what have you, we could push them off to either having that on the events page itself on the site, or if it made sense to be its own landing page, if there was paid promotion, that we could highlight that as well. And then being able to hopefully boost overall attendance and overnight stays.
Any other comments? No, it looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Action item for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding authorization of executive director to file for the fictitious business name of Visit Carson City on behalf of the CTA. I'll turn it over to David. I know we discussed this several months ago, and go ahead.
Yeah, so if I just want to be really clear about what this action item is allowing, and that's for you to give me permission to fill this form out as it relates to us doing business as Visit Carson City from a public perspective with consumers and with travel trade. I'm not requesting to legally change the name of the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority. And this also doesn't have anything to do with the trademarks that we're working on as well right now. So this is a separate ask of you all as the board. And it has to do with NRS 602.010 that provides for every person or business in the state who's doing business under an assumed or fictitious name that's different than the legal name of that particular business. So we must file with the county clerk, recorder, in this case, obviously, municipality of Carson City. So that's the request. I'm happy to try to go through the artificial person and what all that means in the 602 chapter if you would like. Or we can have Piran take us through that legal side of it. But the long story short is, obviously, we want to do business as Visit Carson City with our visitors and with the travel trade. So this is a requirement in statute. out and file it with the county recorder.
No, I'm sure you could go into great detail. But if I understand it, it's only going on our marketing collateral. It doesn't go on any contracts. It doesn't go on any legal documents. Is that this, Cliff Notes version of it?
That's absolutely correct. Legally, we're still Carson City Culture and
It
Tourism
ties with our,
Authority. But yeah, with
the
our
logo.
marketing. Absolutely, that's the case.
Any
So,
questions?
for instance, if I could just add, say we go to a show, right? We want to be there as Visit Carson City. Our booth, right, would be built out as Visit Carson City on the travel trade side. And then, of course, with our ads in the logo that you all were kind enough to review and give us the green light on, that's Visit Carson City. So, yes.
So I read through 602010, and after I pulled the pencil out of my eye, I came up with a couple of questions. I think I'm understanding what Dave is saying, but let me run a scenario by you, Perrin, and see if this is the reason why we need to do this. So we're at a marketing event. We have signage up, banners that say Visit Carson City, and we're branding ourselves that way. If we didn't do this DBA, somewhere in that, in little small print or whatever, would have to be the words Carson City Convention and Tourism Authority, or Culture and Tourism Authority, correct? I mean, this gets us out from having to put that sort of
On it.
caveat or parenthetically, bracketed statement.
Right. And the purpose of it is if say David goes to a trade show, he's interacting with people as Visit Carson City, he does something shady and they want to sue
Yeah, no,
us.
right.
This is now a record somewhere that they can look up, so they aren't trying to find Visit Carson City. That's the purpose of this.
Okay.
And so because the website is so focused on Visit Carson City, and it sounds like at the trade shows, it's easier to interact with people as Visit Carson City than going through the whole backstory of, well, our thing is Visit Carson City, but we're actually blah, blah, blah. And so this would allow them to just cut that last part out, be Visit Carson City, while keeping the board and everything the same for all contracts and all other legal purposes.
Okay, and then this, if I understand what you sent correctly, doesn't have anything to do with the trademarking. All of that is a separate step that you will take on our behalf, or you'll
Yeah.
guide David or hold his hand or whatever has to happen for that to go
Right.
through.
Right, completely separate, completely different purpose. That purpose is to protect us from anyone stealing any of CTA's materials. So that is something that we are already working on.
Okay, and does that require a board action in your mind, or, I mean, and if it did, could we do that right now, or do you feel like we're too focused on this agenda item?
No, that's a separate item. I don't think that it would need to be a board action. I'd like to look into that a little bit. I don't think it would, but if the board was gonna take action on it, it would need to be agendized separately.
Yeah, I just didn't want to delay it if we could keep moving
Sure,
it forward.
I don't think that it does. The application is $100 expense, so it's something under the authority of the.
And finally, as I was reading this and I looked at our website, should we take down that website until we've got the DBA filed, or?
We have
I mean, there
30.
seems like there's enough information on there that you can find it, but I just want to make sure we weren't exposing ourselves.
No, and we have 30 days to file it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mike? Good. I get a motion?
Certainly. I move to approve the authorization of the executive director to file for the fictitious business name of Visit Carson City on behalf of the CTA.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. On to item 10, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the CTA Statement of Accounts payable checks for November 19. David, if you could hit the highlights.
Thank you, Chair Jones. In your packets, you have the invoice listing for accounts payable, checks totaling $95,552.57 for November 2019, and will hit the highlights if that's okay with you. So on first page, you see the first two Carson City squares. Those are for the October and November lease payments for the building. And then the Travelers, that's the reissued payment. There was a little hangup with a payment that went out to them and somehow got lost in the mix or whatever happened. But this is the reissued payment for our insurance policy with Travelers. So everything is cleared up, squared up, as we talked about at the last meeting. All the payments have been made for the annual insurance policy. On the next page, at the top, you see the payment to the Nevada Department of Taxation. So that's the 3/8 of 1% that funds the Nevada Division of Tourism, and that was for September. And then the KPS 3 payments, the first one is the photography, the travel media mission, as well as the marketing dollars that have been put in to that contract. Second payment for the $5,775 was for some of the website development, obviously, that resulted in our new website. On the bottom of that page, you'll see the $30,387.50. That's the first of two payments that go to Epic Rides for next June's Carson City Off-Road event. So again, that's payment one of two pursuant to the contract. If there are any questions on any of the other charges, I'm happy to address them at this time.
Questions from the board? All right, motion?
I move to approve the CTA account activity statement of accounts payable checks for November 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. On to item 11, discussion and possible action regarding approval of adjusted CTA fiscal year 20 budget report. David?
Thank you, Chair Jones. So in your packet, you have the comparative statement of adjusted revenue totaling $916,648.33, expenses totaling $649,456.81, with a fund balance for all CTA funds totaling $1,828,366.02. And I'll just hit some of the highlights on this particular report as well. So this is for the fifth accounting period in the fiscal year. So the expenditures are what we received through November 30th, 2019. So we're 42% through fiscal 20. The revenue side is 1 month behind. So remember, we're always on the lag. So even though the expenditures have come in through November, these are the payments, the remittances for business activity on the lodging tax side through October. So you can see where we're tracking at there as far as our revenues. Again, not too bad, relatively speaking, just under 38% against 42% of the year from the expenditure side. But again, we're 1 month behind on the revenue collections. Page 3, labeled on the bottom, the payments that have been made on the interlocal and to the Nevada Commission on Tourism or Division of Tourism, those are for the first 3 months of the year. So that's July, August, and September, the 70,000 and change and the 29,000 and change. And then really page, nothing major at this point that I want to cover on page 4. Page 5 is just, again, that recap report in terms of what is sent to taxation, right? So that's our overall budget. And the plan is still, we're going to meet next week, Chris and the team. We're going to talk through for 6 months of the year in terms of expenditures, everything that's come in, that we've paid, and then we'll make the adjustments, hopefully for the February meeting to shift the dollars around. And that's, again, just to cover some things with travel, the travel dollars based on those grants that I talked about last month that we received after we had already put the budget together for taxation. But so far, I feel like we're tracking very well. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions the board may have.
I have no questions.
I move to approve the adjusted FY20 budget report as presented through November 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. On to item 12, discussion and possible action regarding the annual performance review of David Peterson, Culture and Tourism Authority Executive Director, to review past and future objectives as Executive Director and to approve an overall rating of his performance over the past year, which may make him eligible for a merit-based raise. Kieran's going to help us through this, I'm sure. It's the first time. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with it in public, but we're going to, I think, David, you've supplied us with some, your accomplishments that you feel are important this past year, and then your goals for next fiscal year. And we could go through those, and then the board can add or subtract to your goals, I guess.
Yeah. No, thank you, Chair Jones. It's been a great first year. You know, I've appreciated obviously the support of you all for the past year and giving me some great input and feedback and guidance as we've obviously undertaken a lot of initiatives in the last 12 months, and the team has been wonderful, and I've appreciated them putting up with me for the past year. Sometimes it gets a little crazy, you know, in the office, but they've stood by everything that we're moving forward as far as Carson City is concerned. So with that, I'll hit some of the highlights. It's in your packet, it's up on the screen, but I'm just going to touch on some, I think, the key accomplishments from the past 12 months since I started. On the finance and administration side, obviously, grants are a big part of, you know, our budget process, and receiving 9 grants for $57,000, I think was a great accomplishment for the team and for the CTA. The other one that I'll highlight is establishing our tier structure and guidelines for the different events and our different partners that we assist. You know, we have community partners, we have tourism partners, and then we have our endorsed partners. And this has also, I think, helped to rein in, or will rein in moving forward, some of the costs for the graphic design and also the printing to help us hopefully not see those print overages, you know, as you guys were seeing over the past year. So this is, I think, great tool for the whole team to work with and to know how we are setting up the different partners within Carson City. And then I think, you know, another important one that was great to work with the city on is co-drafting the interlocal agreement, and we were able to do that for 2 years. To get us through fiscal '21 for the services that we receive from the city, but also the funding for the Arts and Culture Department as well. And then I think I'm excited, you know, obviously Jess just came on board at the beginning of December, but restructuring the team and being able to get an additional person in and work within the confines of the budget that we have to give Lydia some support, you know, personally within the team. But also, this is going to bring, I think, a great level of content, right, for our tourism industry partners, video, photos, and then, as you heard earlier, the new website, the .biz website, and working with our partners. So those are some of the, I think, important ones in our finance administration. And then from a marketing perspective, you know, this has been a great experience. I hopefully the team will agree with me, but to be a part of, as I told them, developing these guiding principles, you know, and establishing our brand promise and the brand positioning and the pillars. You know, this is our audiences and our segments and our markets, you know, that this is our foundation, right, as we move Carson City tourism forward. So it's been a fun ride. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And complementing that, I think, is creating the first media plan for this organization as well that we did present, and Lydia presented a few months back with the different mediums and channels, as well as our influencer marketing strategy being a part of that. And that goes to everything we've been talking about with content. You know, the videos, the imagery is all tied in, I think, quite nicely to that. And then, obviously, we launched a brand new version of visitcarsoncity.com. With the full Google Analytics integration for tracking and to be able to track the digital media that we're putting out there, and obviously with our partners as well, you know, like All World Sports, to be able to work with them and track back packages and room night bookings with our partners. I'm excited about that as well, and obviously that's consumed a lot of time for the team, I can tell you probably 12-hour days for the team working on that website to get it to where it is. So that's been obviously a labor of love, I would like to think, for everybody. But and then I think hosting these 20 media writers and influencers from Houston and Los Angeles, Montana, Indiana, Tahoe, Reno, Kansas City, and the Bay Area, that's I think a great component to what we're doing. As we are. It's other people telling the story of Carson City and why you should come to Carson City, and the videos that have come out of and the pictures that we've been able to show at our past board meetings. We may even have more today to show all of you. Have been amazing, I think, and they're a great enhancement to what we can do as staff or working with KPS3. I think people love to see their peers and see a destination through their eyes. And so that video and those images have been great, a great enhancement for us. At the top, yeah, there you go. On the events side, I'll just hit a couple of the highlights. Again, and James, bless his heart for being willing to add sales to his events manager title, is really going to be something that I'm excited about. I think James is excited about this. Obviously, we've been to NTA. We have Go West coming, so this is a new element with the motor coach. We're also getting involved with the internationals as well. So I think we have James will talk about a domestic sales opportunity that we're going to be involved in February on behalf of the RTT. But just to add that sales program with the different components is something that I'm personally excited about. I think it helps to, again, diversify our efforts as Visit Carson City moving forward. And then I threw in the Pete Stetner ride. What I'm excited about is it's a second bike event. It's a gravel grinder. So this is different than the backcountry race, as we know as Carson City Off-Road. But it's going to showcase a different part of Carson City over in the Carson Canyon and Brunswick Canyon. So I'm super excited that we were able to get that 3-year agreement in place with Carlos Perez and Bike Monkey. But I think the most important thing for me is it's going to integrate arts and culture as a part of the visitor's experience. I'm really hoping to see a piece of that come to fruition with the V&T Railroad as well for that weekend experience. So, and then my background obviously is research, so I love data. And we did create a single-page Intercept interview questionnaire, I think back in maybe March, I think it was, James. And we used that to collect data from about 2,000 people, guests, visitors to Carson City from 17 different events that took place from April through December 2019. And as I mentioned, obviously we're working with an outside partner to get that data keyed in a repository, in a database, so we can start churning the numbers and looking at what that economic impact looks like for individual events, but then also collectively, as we talked about, maybe looking at softball and baseball together over the course of the summer and the fall in that case. So, and then a little later on in James' presentation, he's going to show you the group tour, the one-sheeter and this was a whole team effort, I have to say, to put this together. And that was the single piece of collateral that we were allowed to use during our one-on-one appointments at NTA. And I'm super pleased with the way that piece turned out, and it was very well received by the motor coach tour operators. So that's another big accomplishment for this past year. And then FAM tours, familiarization tours. So we did 3 of those last year, representing 19 different tour operators from China, Australia, Canada, and Mexico. And I had a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody else feels the same way. I know they're a lot of work, but again, the team came together and we're helping one another out, which I was very appreciative of, because these do sometimes take place over the course of a weekend. So we will continue to do FAM tours. I'll talk about another opportunity during my executive director report here for April. So I don't know if you would like me to stop on the accomplishments, or if it's okay if I just highlight some of the objectives for my next year.
I think your objectives, let's talk about those.
Sure.
Then we'll open it up to the
Okay. So as you heard, obviously this year, we're going to be launching the visitcarsoncity.biz website here over the next couple of months, which I'm very excited about. I think this is a great way for us to be, again, a source of information for the tourism industry in Carson City for our partners. So we expect that to, again, be fully online March 2020. Chris and I will begin writing the policies and procedures for the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority as well. So given ourselves the year to be able to do this, because at the direction of Nancy Paulson, the city manager, we will need to run those through an outside audit firm. And also, she has been gracious enough to tap into her staff to be able to have them take a look at what we put together for the CTA as well before then we bring it to you all as the board for that final approval. And then the other big thing is putting together a strategic plan for the next, I'm looking at fiscal 21 through fiscal 25, but getting a strategic plan down in place. And then we can have some annual reporting that ladders back to that strategic plan and those goals and the objectives and tactics and strategies included within. So, and then I think the other big one, and I won't read through all of them, but the other one that I'm very excited about, and this is a full team, all 7 of us are involved in this, is reimagining the Kit Carson Trail experience and getting markers in place and then the digitization of that experience. So it will be more than just a piece of paper, that somebody can come into the visitor center or the Chamber of Commerce and pick up that map, but including that in a digital visitor's guide, having an AR component to that, augmented reality, and a virtual reality experience as far as younger visitors are concerned. So I'm very excited to hopefully be able to get that plan is completed before the end of the year. Obviously, there's some grant money, which I'll talk about a little later during my executive director report that's tied to that, but that's going to be an exciting plan. So with that, those are just some of the highlights, but again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to represent Carson City and sell this amazing place and destination, and I really thank you all and the team, for everything that they've done over the last year, because they work very hard for Carson City. So, thank you.
Okay, I think I'll turn to the board and see if there's any comments on his accomplishments or the objectives for next year. And I see a lot of yellow, Mike, so might want to start with you.
My first question is relative to last year's accomplishments and in terms of measuring your performance to those accomplishments from last year. Was there, and again, I wasn't on the board, was there a list of objectives previously, or there was nothing?
There was none. They kind
Okay.
of hit the ground running, I guess.
Relative to the objectives for the coming year, on the bring digital data collection and play for 2020 events, can you tell me what you mean by that?
Absolutely. So the plan is to move away from paper surveys, and we're
Okay.
going to move toward iPads.
Okay.
And so we're building that out with Brian. And this is something that I think will not only be a benefit to James, but also our partners, because I think we have 3 or 4 iPads in the office, and to be able to have that survey preloaded on that iPad, and we've got the full cell service with respect to those iPads, and then that data is going to go right into, the research.net, basically SurveyMonkey's tool, and so it'll be real-time data collection, rather than collecting 100, 200 surveys, and then you have to go back and key all of that in. So it'll be boom, boom, right there at the event. I think this is going to work out great. Mark Salinas is on board with this with respect to his arts and culture events, so he and I have spoken about this. I think with the volunteers, it'll be a lot easier as well, as they're walking around, to be able to hand that iPad to a visitor. And again, we're talking 6, 7, maybe 8 questions, because we're going to do a couple different things with some of the arts events at Mark's request. But yeah, that is the plan, to digitize that data collection and make it truly real-time data collection. And then the reporting will follow, of course. But yeah, in terms of the collection, that's what that entails.
On the on the engaging lodging properties, I'm struggling with the wording on engaging. I mean, I mean, can we say engage and survey? I mean, I'd like it to be a little more direct than just engage.
Yeah, so the actual plan.
Well, talk to is not
Yeah, the
quite enough
actual-
either.
Yeah, the actual, so there is an element, you may know Stacy, Randy Cohen, who's the VP of Research with Americans for the Arts. He's going to be coming in now, I think it's the week of the 16th. And so there's a couple of pieces to this. So working with Mark on this, right, to bring this gentleman in, he's going to talk about the impact that arts have not only in the community, but also from a tourism perspective. So we are going to engage the lodging partners
And where is he talking about that?
here in Carson City.
Just as a presentation in general?
Yes, presentations, yeah. So there is one piece of that with the lodging partners, but after that presentation, Mike and I will be going out to each of the hotel partners, and we've got a one-sheeter in place that talks about all the different arts organizations, kind of as like who they are, what they do. And then I have a lot of material that Mark was kind enough to provide to me that I'm working on putting together the presentation that Mike and I will do to each of the lodging partners as far as engaging them on the importance of arts and supporting that 1%.
So is the plan to invite, or at least alert the lodging properties to that presentation? So
Absolutely.
that they could attend or encourage them to attend?
That is absolutely the case. Literally, this has just happened.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
Like a Friday into today. And
So,
yeah.
relative to objectives then, who's keeping track then of, Chris, are you keeping track of changes to this? You are? So I would like to add, engage and survey the lodging properties regarding the 1% TOT for the, just engage and survey. It feels a little more,
Yeah, I would agree, and I'd like to add, so, we've done this before, I guess, engage the properties, and then it falls by the wayside. I think there has to also that it's a concerted and a continued effort there.
well, I think making it an objective of his probably does that.
Well, yeah, he'll be important to him.
Certainly
next
elevates it.
year.
And one other objective I'd like to see is one that I had a note on, but you brought up during the .biz component, and we can play with the wording, but develop a tourism industry FAM kit, something like that. And you brought up that you're going to work on that, but I would like to make that an objective. So like you're doing the media kit, I think it's important to do a tourism industry kit so that we have, that stock of information available.
May I clarify there? So when I think FAM, familiarization tour, but we have domestic FAMs, we have international FAMs. Within that domestic group, we may have the motor coach FAMs as well. So I'd like to make sure that we are setting it up specific to which component or element of the travel trade we're bringing in, right? We also do media travel writer FAMs too. So when I say media kit, there may be a media kit that we have on the website, but we also customize those FAMs based on, again, the type of, is it a traditional travel writer? Is it an influencer? So they would be unique depending on who's coming to Carson
Okay,
City.
I get that. I'm just
Yeah.
looking for an objective. So how would you like me?
I think
suggest we word that
maybe
objective.
identify and develop market-specific or travel trade-specific FAM.
I'm
Yeah.
good with that. You got that?
Something along those
Karen?
lines,
I'm-
yeah.
I'm good with that. I am in agreement with that. And when would you like to put a date?
For all of them, can you give me?
I mean, if it's done by the end of January or early February, I'm fine with that. No, I'm totally joking.
How about you give me?
You want to put December? I'm fine if you put December for all of them because,
Yeah, let's do that, because right now we are focusing on the motor coach.
under
side.
promise and over deliver, Dave.
Thank you. No, did you hear that? Is that in the notes? Yeah, if you could give me till the end of the year, I can tell you we'll have it done before then. Part of my only concern is with markets, so each international market is also different, right? So I just don't want to get caught on something, say, we're not doing anything
No,
with the German market, but then suddenly we do, and
That's
so-
fine. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, and if there's a priority that you all would like to set as well, I would like to make sure we don't take our foot off the gas with the motor coach market because we are going to go west, right? And now, again, motor coach, but that's actually international motor coach, so.
I think that you and staff are in the best position to determine what the priority is, probably not us.
Okay.
So
Great.
I'm happy to just make it a broad objective, which is what
Yep,
your objective should be, in my opinion. So
thank you.
that's all I have in terms of my input for the objectives, but I do have input for the evaluation when you're ready to hear that.
Yeah, I think we'll see if Mike has any more interjection on objectives or.
No.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, Pierre, now, it's the appraising part, right? And each member will choose from, I guess, meets, exceeds, or outstanding? Are those the, and there's also, I guess, below standards.
Right, that's right. Yep, and you guys can vote as to that, but discuss it as well, of course.
Would you like to start, Stacy?
Sure, I'll start the discussion. Dave, I know that getting your feet under you when you come to work for 5 people, it takes some getting used to when you've worked in government for so many years and you'd have had one boss and all of a sudden you have 5 and we have diverse opinions. And so my 2 cents worth is that you've done a fantastic job of communicating with us as individual board members. I think you've done a fantastic job professionalizing the CTA, and not that the staff within the CTA wasn't professional, but because I don't want that to be the message. But I think that the work that you've done to bring research to the forefront and to get staff working together and moving in one direction is laudable. And I think you've done a wonderful job from the perspective that I have. So that's my 2 cents worth. I'll start with that and I'll pass those comments along.
Thank you, Stacy.
And I think I also want to reflect, and I know we're not evaluating staff, but I also want you to know that their excellence is a reflection of your leadership. And I think they are all excellent, and I think that's a reflection of you as a boss.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, Dave, I'll agree with that, and I actually went back to your interview for the job, because we really didn't have any objectives or anything, and I wanted to kind of see what your plan was for the year. And right off the bat, you stated that you wanted Carson City to be the hub. You looked at it as the hub, as the center point. And I think you've expressed that throughout the year. That's kind of been your guiding principle as far as getting our marketing team on board and really showcasing Carson City as that starting point. And so I really appreciate that. And I agree with Stacy. You've been very professional. Your staff has been very professional. You guys work together well. I feel like we're very informed as a board. And so with that, the last thing I'd like to say to you, and this is really what stuck with me, and I didn't even have to see the interview. I remember you saying this in your interview, and it was, and I don't want to misquote you, so I'm going to read it. But you said that when you were with the state tourism, you stated that you liked selling an experience and visiting Nevada and giving them something to take home and remember. And so I'd like to carry that a bit further and saying we want to sell our visitor an experience as the capital city and hub of Nevada, something to take home and remember. And so I really appreciate that statement you made. And like I said, I had to look at it again, so I didn't misquote you. And once again, thank you and your staff for all the hard work you've done this year.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I probably will. Everything Stacy and Mike have said is absolutely true. You've been, you came with a reputation from the state of being in the tourism industry, and I think there were high expectations for you. And I can tell you, for me, you've exceeded all those expectations. Stacy mentioned you've brought the team together. I think you all work well. You said you've had to, manage 5 different people with 5 different personalities. We meet weekly. You keep me well informed. You have ideas. You're energetic. In fact, you have an endless amount of energy for marketing and DMOs. And it's truly been a pleasure. We've worked closely and, had some challenges, and I think you've sailed through them flawlessly. And I think there's nothing but a bright future ahead of you in this position.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah. Thank you all. Like I said, it's been
So
fun,
Piran,
right? Even though we're government, we're having fun. We're selling Carson City, right? It doesn't get any better than that. So thank you all.
yeah, you're always selling, so
We
that's
are,
another
yeah.
good thing about
Always
it.
marketing.
So Piran, do we go to a vote now on an appraisal score?
Yeah, just like any normal motion and then a second and then a vote. So that's up to you guys how to do that.
And then when I ask, the appraisal then has to come back through me to sign off on? 'Cause
Yes,
we-
so because CTA has a contract with the city to do HR services, I'm taking notes on what your guys' review has been, and we will put that into just a formal review form that you'll sign off on. But nothing in that form will be anything that wasn't said by the board members.
Does that have to be in the motion to authorize him to sign that, or are you comfortable without that in the motion?
I'm comfortable without that in the motion.
Obviously, from my comments, I think you've done an outstanding job this past year, David, and if somebody held my feet to the fire today, that's how I would score. Your performance this year is outstanding.
That a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Chair Jones, can I just clarify? Are you doing a merit-based raise associated with that? Or are you going to vote on that separately?
I think we talked about using the same guidelines as the
As the
city
city,
and the
okay.
merit-based, and I think that's where I'd like to go, and I think is that 5%?
You need to clarify the motion?
Yeah, I think it should be clarified
Yeah.
as there,
I'll make the motion.
okay.
Because, see, they provide us this thing right here.
Well, I know. Well, I thought one of you were going to make the motion, but then you turned it on me.
All right, I move to approve a salary adjustment of 5% for the executive director of the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority as a result of the performance evaluation for the period of December 17th, 2018 to December 16th, 2019. The compensation adjustment will be retroactive to the performance review date of 12/16/19.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You need us to do something with the other motion,
Now,
the one that we.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's clear.
out the obvious there.
I'm here for, sir.
Yes, sir. On to item 13. Presentation and discussion only. David, Director's Report? Or is this the presentation of the marketing update, Lydia?
Yeah, Lydia.
I think that's me. All right. We'll just get right into it. Obviously, we've had a lot of updates, and you've heard a lot of what's going on in the marketing department. And a majority of that has been the website, which we're super proud of, and incredible thanks to Jess on that. We've been building pages upon pages upon pages. So I hope you're all as proud as we are of it. I'm going to start with our PR report. We're going to have November and December. But to start with November, we've had quite a a great couple of months. So as far as unique visitors per month, we've had 24.4 million and a publicity value of 17,000 in the month of November. And this year to date, we've received 3.4 million reach with a unique visitor per month of 290.2 million and a publicity value of $265.6 thousand. We did have one fam that was hosted in November. That was Jill Dutton, who I toured around Carson City. She works from Travel Awaits, but writes from multiple different publications. So we're still waiting for some of those to be published. Our press that we received in November was for the Northern Nevada Business Review about the new Staybridge Hotel and Suites that broke ground. Travel Awaits, one of those from Jill Dutton was 7 great day trips from Reno that we were mentioned in. The Nevada Appeal published about our update in marketing. Another one from Northern Nevada Business Review about our tagline release that we did. And then Robert Annis, or Anise, I'm not sure how you say his last name, came in and was toured around by Jeff Mosier and was highly praising Carson City and our trail network for mountain biking. And his article was fantastic. So if we can look that up for you or send that over to you again, we're happy to do so. Our December update, we had 120.6 million unique visitors per month and a publicity value of $87,600. And then this year to date, we have that 3.4 million reach, 410.8 million unique visitors per month, and a publicity value of a total of 353.2K on that one. We did not have any FAMs in the month of December, which might have been the only month of the entire year that we didn't have somebody coming in. But we did have some great press that came through this last month. The RTC Trail blog talked about the V&T Trail rejuvenating. Nevada Business Magazine talked about the first Unsilent Night in their press release for the event. Meetings today, 7 novel Nevada offsite venues that aren't casinos. They actually mentioned the V&T Railway in this as an option, as an excursion that you could do from your meeting spots. The Washington Times talked about the Travel Nevada's grant release and how much was awarded. And then Coin News had a great article about the sesquicentennial of the Mint. Moving on to November, when we went to the Governor's Global Tourism Summit, David was talking about the media marketplace that we attended, which we got to sit down with 15 potential media partners from over 14 countries to pitch Carson City as a desirable destination to write about or to come visit. So from those meetings, we had a lot of great meetings. We're excited to continue to share that media kit with them as soon as that's wrapped up here next month. But we are going to be hosting Ana Paula Garrido. She's a freelance writer representing a lot of large Latin American outlets. So she lives in New York City currently, but she's going to be coming and visiting us prior to IPW in May. And so we're partnering with Travel Nevada on that. And she was actually our top choice from the summit that we wanted to bring here. So we've got some great irons in the fire beyond her. And then there's more follow-up to be out there with that media kit in the future. For the social media update for November and December combined, we had 347,000 impressions that were delivered. We had over 15,000 engagements on the posts that we did across all channels. And we've had 1,400 people click on the links that were provided for any of the posts that we've done. We're up about 2.6% in our follower growth across all those channels. And then we have our Navigate Like a Nevadan, which is that section of the website that we had spoken about that we finally have our first video for. So I'm hoping this will work, so bear with me for a second here. Make sure my volume is up. But this is a cut down version. It's with Woody from the state capitol, the tour guide. This is just like a minute snippet. It's actually like a 4-minute and 30-second video.
This history goes, this history is so interesting. It's boundless. The things that, that this building represents. My name is Woodrow Davis. My job is to give anybody that comes through the door and wants a tour the Nevada experience. I love the state, and I get people from all over the world into this room. This building is the 3rd oldest Capitol building west of the Mississippi. This land that the Capitol sits on was 10 acres donated to the people of Nevada by one of the 4 founding fathers of Carson City. And the principal founding father was Abraham Curry. His statue is next door in the park. The official state Christmas tree was planted by the father of the man who built the Ferris wheel, George Washington Gale Ferris Jr.
So that was just a small highlight reel, but the full video is fantastic, and Woody was an incredible interview. KPS3 had nothing but funny anecdotes from that. So that now lives on the site. We'll be doing more, hopefully, throughout the year. Our next one, I believe, is probably going to be Mark S. Day, and we have a few other that we'll have lined up for that too. So that not only just live on the site, but it'll live on YouTube. It's something that we can circulate and advertise and really have a deeper, true Nevada story behind those videos that, we can get out to our potential tourists. And the last thing I want to go through is our digital visitor guide is almost complete. We're in our final rounds of edits, and it's beautiful. We're really excited about it. We can't wait to get it out there and then also start tracking it. With the new site, we have the ability to actually see what websites are delivering people to the site, where they're coming from, and who and what and where, and everything about when they're downloading that digital visitor guide too. So when we can finally get these in print this next year, is going to be super exciting. So our cover page will look like this. And then I'll just go through the kind of skeleton level of the outline of that. So these pictures that you see on the left are actual photos of what that's going to look like when they're flipping through it. So we'll start off with the introduction. We'll have a table of contents and a welcome letter from the mayor, who was a fantastic addition to that front page. He did a great job on that. And then we'll have a map feature, which is similar to what you see on the website. So it really establishes us as the hub and how far we are away to those other destinations. Then we'll move into things to see and do, and that's obviously the most majority of this visitor guide. So we'll start off with the beauty feature of a couple page spread to show off local photography, some of the things that we've gotten from those influencers and content producers. And then we'll have that Capitol building feature, which will pull all the information from the interview from Woody. So we'll get to repurpose that interview instead of with just video. And then we'll move into the new reimagined Kit Carson trail map, which we have redone and have a new route for that we feel like is much, much more visitor friendly. And then we'll move into the Nevada State Museum and Mint. Obviously, with the 150th anniversary, we have a lot of content around that. And then we'll list the museums. And then we'll move into our train experiences. So that's highlighted and not confused that we have more than one and that the V&T is not the Railroad Museum. We make that very clear. And then we'll continue into the locals' favorite trails, which that spread is something that I really enjoy. And that I think our locals and our visitors will too, because it really gives that unique perspective and those hidden treasures on our trails that are kind of hard to find. Then we'll move into golf, which we have that incredible photography from Jeff Dow that we're really excited to highlight. And we're doing a new feature called the Triple Play section. And so it's different times of the year where you can do 3 different things, right? You can go to the ski resorts, you can go fishing, you could go swimming or to the hot tubs, or you could play golf, you could go ski, and then you can go soak in the hot tubs. We have a few different combinations that really highlight how to move around the area, but make Carson City your hub. And then the Brewery Arts Center will be featured for their many events in the 11 Amp series. We'll have a whole spread over how to go see all of our public art murals and just public art in general. We'll have featured artist articles about that as well. We do talk about the Ghost Walk and our downtown shopping. And then we'll also have the Carson City local profile. In the next section, our first feature is Stacy Montooth, who's the new executive director of the Stewart Indian School, which opened today, the new cultural center and museum. If you haven't been, it's open Monday through Friday from 10 to 5, and it's truly an incredible experience that we can't wait to share more with our visitors. And you can see on the bottom left there, that's the spread from Stacy Montooth and talking more about the cultural center and museum. And we'll do a featured events highlight, which we're going to be highlighting the Nevada Day Parade and really the whole weekend, so people have a better understanding of everything that actually happens over that weekend. And then we'll list the events too. And then we'll move into dining, and we have that broken out much like our dining guide did, so they know they have icons of whether it's downtown or pizza or Italian or what type of food it is. So it's very easily seen and listed out very nice. And then we'll move into the lodging. We'll have a highlight on unique places to stay, like the St. Charles and the Bliss Bungalow. And then we have a full lodging listing as well. And that wraps up all the things that are going into the digital visitor guide and what's been happening. Are there any questions I can answer?
No?
I
You're
just
busy.
want to say, if I may, Chair Jones, I mean, the team has done an amazing job while the websites have been going on to also be working on this digital visitors guide as well. And our quest is obviously to get this out in January. But so great job to them. I think the content is amazing. It's very rich, it's vibrant, it's engaging, right? And I think we hope this visitor guide will incentivize somebody who may only be coming to Carson City for a day. Maybe it's, hey, we need to come back here, stay a weekend. Or if they're here, rather than, not that we don't want them to go to our surrounding areas, but to engage them to do some other activities that they didn't know about. And I think by having this in a digital capacity allows us the flexibility to change. We can swap, right? If I'm wrong, I don't want to freak you out, but we can change this up during the course of the year, right? If suddenly we get a new event coming in, as James will talk about some new events, we could retool this piece because it lives on the website, but it's also its own like issue whatever issue is, where you can flip through the pages. You could go in, you could print a particular section of the guide if you want. The Kit Carson Trail map will be integrated in this as well. So I think the flexibility that we have with this being a digital piece is super exciting for me. The fact that it's living, breathing, can change throughout the course of the year. I like that. So.
No, it's very commendable, and you mentioned it at the start, all the different balls that are in the air right now, and the team seems to be able to keep them all going without dropping one, so.
And that's been
nice.
only possible by adding an 8th day to their weekly schedule, so.
Okay. Any other comments by the board for Linnea? James, events and sales?
Thank you. Just doing a recap of since November, since we haven't done a presentation since November. The first topic over here is the Trails and Transportation Summits. This was a presentation that I did in South Lake Tahoe. David had to attend the groundbreaking for the State Bridge and asked me to attend this. And so some of the things that I talked about at this event was the brand pillars of Carson City and why we are going in a certain direction. I actually got grouped into the Complete Streets and Tourism program, which is having sidewalks, complete sidewalks, and how that helps tourism, bike lanes, complete bike lanes, and those kind of things, and how that contributes to tourism. So I was able to pull in the family-friendly component of our brand pillar to include how that can help us in terms of the Complete Streets project. And it was actually a very well-received presentation, as a lot of people actually kind of understood more of how tourism can play a role in supporting those local types of developments. And a lot of these, the people that attended this event was, people that built trails, people that were in charge of the infrastructure for the city, or they represented the state in some capacity. And so they kind of knew that tourism played a role, but this one kind of gave them something substantial to actually work under. So that was a good opportunity for us to kind of educate them on how we can support Complete Streets project, in addition to how that project supports us. Another recap from November was the Nevada Global Tourism Summit. And this event, we actually got to meet with quite a few constituents from various places. And what you're seeing there is a list of, or the different areas of places that we visited and people that I spoke to. It was interesting because as I asked the question, what was important to them in terms of bringing people to Carson City, they each brought a different component. For example, people from Japan, I asked the question, I was like, what's important to get someone here? And it's like, we're really big on trains. Send us things on trains. And so I gained a lot of insight from different countries on what was important for them. You know, Germany, they want hotels, listings of hotels that was right next to a restaurant. That was important to them. You know, and when I talked to people from Belgium, they told me that, you know, we want to know the trails and we want to be independent on how we go about it. So if you send us things on trails, we will most likely come out there and you might not even know that we were there. But that's what's important to us. Send us that. And so it was a great opportunity for us to kind of get to know each region and what was important for sending information to them, and how do we use that? You know, we've had discussions with David and myself, and ways that we could do and build packages for each of these locations, sending them things about our train, about the VNT train, about the train museum, the railroad museum, and how that can get people from Japan to actually come and visit this region. So as we continue to build out some of these itineraries, we can customize them depending on who our audience is. And having that conversation with them kind of gave us the foundation and the groundwork in order to have that discussion. So it was actually our first ever opportunity to go and meet with tour operators. So it was a good introduction, a good education portion for me to understand what the tour operators' challenges are and what I could do to help alleviate some of those challenges. It's missing a whole piece. Yep. And then in December, we went to NTA Travel Exchange in Texas, and we got a chance to meet with a lot of tour operators. This is a pretty much, I went to their website and pulled their logo from this so I could put this on this spreadsheet here. But each of these tour operators represents a different region. You have everything from Southern California, Northern California, Portland, Oregon, British Columbia, Texas, Utah, and some of these tour operators are barely getting into the market. For example, China Plus Tours, they would do tours in China, right? But now they're reversing course and they want to bring tours to the United States. And so this was their first time that we actually got a chance to talk with them. It was actually a funny exchange, because as I was going through some of my notes prior to meeting the China Plus Tours, I was telling David that, you know, this might not be a good fit. At the time when I scheduled the tour for them, they had no information on their NTA website. But we knew that China was a market that we wanted to at least talk with. But after we met with them, we were just like, wow, that worked out a lot better than than what we anticipated.
And if I can add, Pei, the co-owner, she won our lucky draw.
She did.
Package, right, to come to Carson City. So she will either pre or post NTA in Reno next November and spend 2 nights here in Carson City. So it actually was, it did work out really well, because we were going to pull the plug on this, and as it turned out, we had a fantastic conversation with her.
We did. And it goes to show that, you know, you schedule the tour, you schedule the meeting, and you have some thoughts on how it might go, but you never know, right? We also touched on sports leisure vacations. They're actually a great contact for us, because they're based out of Sacramento, and if you knew nothing about them, you would think that they were in the sports leisure vacations industry, but it's the complete opposite. They don't have any sports related tours that they do. It was a name that they had stuck with from back in the 80s, but they do all various different types of tours: horticulture tours, sightseeing tours. They actually have the ag tour that they do down in Douglas County. They have a tour that comes and does that. So it was interesting to meet with different tour operators, and you have one perception of what you think they do, but then they provide something completely different. Each and every one of these tour operators that we targeted have done something within the region, or are currently doing something now. And so for us, it was important to make contact, because if they're already coming here, why are they not coming to Carson City? And that was the conversations that we were having back and forth. Some of them would say, we just never really planned anything. We never really had someone represent Carson City and reached out to us and highlight why it was important for us to come there. Some of them were just like, well, we reached out in the past and we just didn't get any responses. And so we just planned other activities, right? So it was a whole vast, broad reasons as to why people have not stayed in Carson. I verified with some of our local lodging properties, and they have different tour operators that they work with that bring tours. None of these are listed on here are part of their network that they're currently working with. So this is brand new opportunities for us to build on and have some future opportunities for them. So what did we give them? We gave them this one sheet here. This is the Carson City You're in Nevada Group Tour Experience. David mentioned this one sheet, and the importance of it highlights the accommodations that we have in Carson City, the arts and entertainments, the dining and cuisine, history and attractions, and the outdoor recreation. In addition to statistics, we have, how much sunshine we get here, how many hotels or rooms that we have, the population of the city, and the proximity. One of the key components for tour operators is they want to know where your location is, where people can fly into, where they can start their tour, where they can end their tour. And so having this big map that kind of highlights the fact that we are close proximity to San Francisco, Sacramento, we are just north of Yosemite. Those kind of things are things that is important for them as they try to plan the tours and trips and guides and where some of the stops are. Obviously, Carson City is not the the only place that they're planning on going to, but if we can just get them for one stop, that's a win for us. And so that's how we planned and built this. And we've actually got a lot of help from our state partners, and also Art from Reno gave us a lot of information on what we should include, what we should take out, what needs to be added and what needs to be removed. So we didn't build this internally. We got the pros to come in to help us out a little bit. Yes.
And I just want to say, James was, he was like a rock star there, because not only did we do 20-something one-on-one appointments, we also had an opportunity to do the sales mission. They call it the sales mission, but basically 2 presentations to, I think it was like between 6 and 10 group tour operators. And this was separate from the one-on-one appointments. So James was right up there with the RSCVA and
RTT was represented, Las Vegas represented, Laughlin.
Yep, and I think I did an amazing job handing out the collateral and carrying your stuff. And so, yeah, give myself a little plug there, But yeah, he did really an amazing job during all of NTA with the appointments. I had a lot of compliments. And hence, when we get to something else, why he's now going to be doing an RTT function, so.
Yep, and then we got the opportunity to actually, I was going to touch on that, David. The 13, it was interesting because some of the tour operators that attended the group meetings that I was able to do a presentation, they were the same tour operators that we met with. But it seemed like the second time they heard the message, something else resonated with them, to where they came up to me and were just like, well, what if we build an itinerary based off of this? What if we build an itinerary based off of some of the things that you talked about, and if there's other areas that we could potentially visit? And so those gave us another avenue for us to kind of build itineraries to kind of help these tour operators. We go to this next part here. The next section here is like our year, 2019. If I was to define 2019, it would be the year of the survey. There were 17 events that we conducted surveys for. We got 2,000 responses. Some of you'll see there the listings. We touched on the 11 Amp series, the soccer tournaments, the baseball tournaments, softball tournaments, cultural festivals, which is the Silver State Art Festival, the Carson City Gun Club. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but we support them, roughly 3 events that we help in terms of covering food costs for their events. And what that does is it creates a unique venue place for all the gun shoots that come from California. So the California Youth Shoot Club organization, when they hear that their shooters don't have to cover for food on a certain day. It actually incentivizes them to come out here to stay at hotels and also attend these tournaments. So we've done surveys at that event, the Carson City Off-Road, and also the Outlaw Flat Track Race. And I can tell you, when we first had this discussion about conducting surveys, I was really like gung-ho about doing this. I got this picture of this cute kid up there on the wall. He's got full hair and saying, let's do this. I'm ready and prepared to go. And by the end, that kid lost all his hair and it was just, in tears. No more surveys. But, I would not take that experience away because not only are we building a foundation of learning what the economic impact of each of these events, but I also got to learn some very important things about each tournament and what we need to potentially work on. And that's some of the action items here. Number one, ancillary activities are important. When I speak to the families that brought their kids here for the soccer tournaments, one of the things that they prioritized was the fact that, if there's things to do in Carson City is why they stayed here. There was, in fact, a whole group, a whole team that decided to stay in Minden and Gardnerville because they saw that there was additional ancillary activities that they could do down there. And that was at the pool, the Carson City, or the Minden pool, I think is what we call it. They saw that as the main ancillary activity for them and their families to do, and that was their choice to stay down in Minden, Gardnerville. And so for us, what our mission is and what our goal is to make sure that we provide information to the families that are participating in these tournaments that there are other ancillary activities to do here in Carson City. Some of them were really surprised to hear when I was talking to them about the fact that on the north end of town, we actually have an indoor go-kart race area, and I can't tell you how much business I sent those guys because that was one of the things that a lot of the families were really excited about. And so the plan that we have moving forward for this year is we are going to make sure that for these youth tournaments, they're going to receive a bag. And inside this bag is going to have information about Carson City, some of the restaurants and the coupons they could potentially get, in addition to some of the ancillary activities that they could do here in downtown or in the surrounding areas. And that actually highlights the number 2, right? Lunch and dinner choices are still open. It was surprising to find out that a lot of these families, they have not yet made a decision on where they were going to eat at that day. They came the night before and they already knew where they were going to stay, where they knew where they were going to eat at, they knew where they were going to stay. But because of the fact that they'll have a game at 9 o'clock and then their next game is not until 2 o'clock, they have to try to fill that gap somehow with something to do. And so their lunch opportunities are actually still quite open for them. They have yet to solidify that. So as I had this conversation with them, conducting the surveys and asking them questions about where their plans were for lunch, they were always asking for suggestions. Any suggestions? And I would give them a list of the ones that I've been to, ones that I know can accommodate a bigger group. And from there, they would try to plan their itineraries right there on the spot. And so I think it'll be important for us to hit home the fact that if you stay in Carson City, instead of trying to stay in Minden, Gardnerville, and then make the trip back, you can actually get some coupons to stay at maybe or eat at some of the local restaurants that we have. So that's like one of the plans that we're trying to utilize in order to combat that challenge that we're facing. And the third one is obviously the mini vacations. A lot of these families are saying, this is a 3-day weekend for us, and we are attending the taco tournament, but we have plans to, do all these other activities and go to other places. And so I had a conversation with Gina Hill and talked about, because of the fact that the Brewery Arts Center does so many events, there's typically not a weekend where there's not anything happening at the Brewery Arts Center. So I had a conversation with her about some of the opportunities to maybe cross-promote, as she offered up some discounts at some of the events that are happening the same weekend that the soccer tournaments were taking place. So my hope is with that is, as they fill their itinerary here in Carson City, they'll make the decision to stay another night in Carson City. So those are some of the action items that we are already undertaking to combat some of these things that we've noticed. Upcoming events, the Travel and Adventure Show. This is, I'm actually representing RTT at this event in February. It covers Chicago and also Milwaukee. I have sales side here only, but on Friday, I had, after conversing with David and with Sylvia, right? I'm also going to represent the consumer side on Sunday in addition to the sales side only portion as well. So I'll be representing RTT for February to kind of highlight this whole region to some pretty major tour operators, Apple Tours being the major one that we're having the sales calls with. In March, David and myself will be attending the Go West Summit in Portland. This is the international motor coach opportunity for us. And so it's a different group of people that we'll be meeting with, but it's still within the motor coach industry. Same deal as the NTA, where there's preset appointments that will open up at the end of the month, and then we will have a set schedule of who we're going to meet with before we arrive. So we're hoping to get some good contacts there to start building that database for our international motor coach groups. New events. This Cap Calloway Orchestra is taking place February 8th. David and I, we talked about some of our February events that we could support to try and build on. And to be honest, we just don't have a lot of events taking place in the month of February for us to try and bring people to Carson City. So this was more of like an open window, an opportunity for us to kind of see how it could play out in order for us to maybe support future February events. And so Gina will be collecting data for us to kind of see where people are coming from and if they're potentially staying here in Carson City because of this. The other one is on March 21st. It'll be the second year that we're doing the Nevada First Robotics Tournament. Last year, they had a robotics group that came from Utah, and this year they're anticipating maybe 5 or 6 robotics clubs coming from California. Throughout the month of January and February, I'll actually be going with them, potentially to help support them in their marketing efforts, attending other tournaments in California, potentially in Idaho as well. So that's something to look forward to. And then this one here, this was actually a pretty big one. This is the Hoop Circuit is in charge of the West, everything from Washington, Oregon, California, and Nevada. And these guys, it was interesting because this gentleman, James Johnson, he reached out to me because he found out about our MAC facility through a tour that I took another gentleman on. It was, in fact, a tour I took from the baseball. There was a baseball tournament here in town, and one of the tour operators came in, one of the managers of this baseball tournament was just like, I heard you guys have a new basketball facility. And I was just like, yeah, you want me to take you on a tour? And he was just like, sure. So I take him on this tour, and he was just like, you know what, I think I could probably do something here. And eventually, months happen and I don't hear a word. And all of a sudden, James Johnson was just like, I've been trying to get a hold of you guys to finalize my basketball tournament. And so I was just like, let me help with that. And I contacted Scott Chapman and solidify this basketball tournament for May 15th through the 17th. We're anticipating roughly around 35 to 40 teams, 10 of them at least from California, Sacramento area. So I had to hold off on this. I've known about this event for a couple of months, but until it was actually in the books and solidified is when I'm actually able to present it now. So this is actually the first major basketball tournament that we're hosting. So pretty stoked about that one. Thank you.
Great job.
Hey, James, I have one quick question on the gun tournaments that you go to out at the gun club.
Uh-huh.
Are they usually packed? I mean,
They're packed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do they give you any sense that
So-
they could probably put more on if,
Well, it was interesting enough because they actually came into the office last week and was telling us about how overbooked he was and how they don't have, they're starting to turn people away from their event space. So I just told him, it sounds like good problems to me, and he laughed about that for a little bit. But there's actually 2 other opportunities. They haven't released any information yet, but they're big ones. And I would rather wait for them to make it public before I make an announcement on it, but they're not done with the big partnerships that they're working with. As soon as they release that information publicly, I'll talk to you guys about it and talk and go into more details about the types of groups that they're bringing in.
So at our last Board of Supervisors meeting, we approved a contract to go ahead and fix the full range.
Yes.
So hopefully they're doing lead abatement right now, and then hopefully by end of March, early April, it'll be back to 6-day-a-week operations, Monday being the maintenance day. So it was a significant investment, close to $900,000.
Yeah. I saw
Between
that.
city funds and a grant from NDOW. So anyway, so it's going to happen.
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Thank you. Anything else for James? David?
Thanks, James.
So in your packets, you should have the transient lodging report for October 2019. I'll just hit the highlights really quick because I want to get you guys out of here by 8 tonight, if at all possible. For the month, we were down just a little over $90,000, 5.27%. Calendar year-wise, we are up, so 6.62%. And for the fiscal year, we're up just a little shy of 11,000 or 0.12%. We were down RevPAR overall in aggregate, a little over $5 per available room. But if you look on the right-hand side of page 1, we're still doing wonderfully well with ADR, average daily rate. That's what's really keeping us where we are. So there's some big numbers now. Properties, again, just remind you, sometimes switch between the top 5 and then the 6 to 13. So that does throw these reports off when you look at them on a month-to-month, year-over-year comparison. And on the backside, we are down, obviously, in terms of the total room nights occupied, about 1,169 in the top 5, and then a little over 2,000 on the top 6 to 12. But that, again, has to do with a flip between the hotel properties. So you'll see on the remaining, we're up 464, but because we cannot identify individual properties, I will just tell you, it has to do with that shift between where they fall, right, in terms of the revenue, and then it readjusts the room nights occupied section of the reporting. So happy to entertain any questions on this particular report.
Any questions on occupancy? Director's report?
Okay, I'll be really quick on the executive director report. So this week, we are finalizing the projects related to tourism grant for the Kit Carson Trail. I had a great meeting this morning with the prison industries team, including their deputy director, regarding all the different design elements for the markers that we're going to do for sort of our highlighted top 25 locations. So I'm hoping to get the quote from them tomorrow, is the plan, because I need that, or we need that to be able to submit the grant to Travel Nevada by Friday. So I think we're tracking very well at this point. So I'm going to be excited to see what their quote comes back as. I only have the installation piece right now, but that'll cover the physical materials piece. But we had great idea. I won't get into all the details, but they said, why don't you, with the numbers, why don't you do little bronze in the shape of Nevada and then have the number? Oh my God, that's brilliant. I love it. So a couple of really cool ideas that team came up with that I hadn't really thought of. Or we didn't collectively, I guess, kind of think out loud about. But I think it'll be really cool. So, and then I'm really excited to say, last month I talked about the Chinese tour operator, FAM, that we're going to have up here in April, first weekend after Active America China down in San Diego. I really appreciate, I didn't even know if I was going to get one lodging property to come back to respond to say, yes, we will host and comp 10 rooms for the first Friday night of April. 4 lodging properties came back and said, we'll host your group. So it created a wonderful problem, but because of the positive response it received from the hotel properties, we are actually going to host this group of Chinese tour operators for the whole weekend now. And so long story short, Marriott is going to do the Friday night. They'll do a dinner. I won't get into all the details because I still need to work that out with James and team and then the Travel Nevada folks. And then we're going to shift to the Hampton Inn and Suites. And so it's going to be truly the embodiment of this Centerpoint Hub experience, right? Because in this case, they're staying here in Carson City for the whole weekend, and then they can go out, right? We'll do some activities here in Carson City, but they do need to go to the lake. We do have to share them with our partners and down to Bentley, to Reno and Virginia City. So again, I just want to thank the hotel partners for their support and positive response. And again, it's kind of generated as a result of this RFP inquiries now about the Japanese market and the South Korean market, and if there will be some opportunities forthcoming. And I'm not letting go of the Japanese opportunity. I hope I think it's going to be post IPW in the first week of June. So I'm working with the Visit USA people on that front as well. So we're going to get the FAM built out. Again, we'll cover a museum property, Capitol, and then Stewart. And I was at not to digress, but I was at a Washoe Tribal planning meeting that they were kind enough to invite me to last week. I brought this up as it relates to the new cultural center, and the elders said, "Oh my gosh, you need to have us there, and we'll do dance. We'll bring in bead makers." And I was like, "Oh yes, this is exactly the type of thing that we we want to pull these folks in and have a true cultural experience." The Chinese visitors will eat that up, and it'll be an indelible experience that they will go back. And yes, we need to include this product right in what we're doing from a tour perspective. So, and then the other really, I think, a great opportunity. So Travel Nevada, Sylvia Welsh, who handles the Chinese market, she'd like to do a roundtable, if we can do this, and invite all of the properties, right? So that way, everyone has a chance. Maybe it's a couple minutes. I'm not sure exactly how this would look because we just talked about this at breakfast last Thursday, but to invite those properties to a meeting at one of those two hotels so they can talk about their property as well, because I want to be open, right, to all of our lodging properties. Maybe we'll invite the museums people, somebody from, Stuart will be out there, but maybe have a restaurant or two as well come and talk about the cuisine and what they're showcasing at their property. So I'm excited about this. It's going to be a long weekend. I feel bad for the team having to cover this because I think I'm out of town or something, but we'll talk about that later. So the last thing I just want to wrap up with is we are going to sponsor the Mint 150 event on February 4th. So mark that on your calendars. You can come to our site or the mint150.com website. So I do know from talking with their interim director over there, Mina, that they're already selling tickets, believe it or not, in California for this event. So I think it's going to be really cool. And this is the guy that is the U.S. Mint director, I think, who's coming and doing the presentation. So it's going to be wonderful. Yes. Yeah. So that's all I have. Any questions? Happy to entertain them.
Any future agenda items?
So we're going to have Jay Brewster Brew plus Glenn Wharton come in at the next meeting, and they'll talk through the plans moving forward for the tours, and that's our quarter share piece in conjunction with the city, RAC, and the chamber, and then they'll probably talk about some of the other grants that they're also applying for as well. So that'll be a presentation/action item. So that's currently what we have as far as third-party presentations. And am I missing? No, I don't think so. So that'll be the main focal point. And it's possible we'll come back with a live .biz website, but we have to see how that goes, right, with the team and us bringing that content online. I don't want to do a staged rollout. I really want to have .biz ready to go with all the sections. So again, I don't want to put too much pressure on everybody. So it may be that, it'll be the end of February, early March, but happy to do an update, if you'd like to see where we're at progress-wise. But yeah, so that's all I have, unless the board has anything they would like to be moving forward. Okay.
No board comments. Move on to public comment. I don't think there is any. So we'll move on to adjourned.